Hello, everyone. My name is Mwikali Kioko. This project, which centers the lived experiences of women navigating women's cancers, grew out of walking alongside my sister through ovarian cancer and realizing how much of the journey happens outside of the clinic. At the same time, a family member in Kenya was supporting her mother through breast cancer. These two experiences opened my eyes to how similarly and how differently women navigate women's cancers, depending on where they are. Cancer is a leading cause of death globally, and women in low and middle income countries face the greatest disparities. Yet many systems are not equipped to support women through the journey or to manage the rising burden of women's cancers. I wanted to understand what that meant in women's real lives. I spoke with survivors and caregivers in Kenya, Zambia, and the US. And I listened for the moments that had stayed with them, the ones that they really remembered and that they carried. And from these moments, 5 pivotal experiences emerged, showing what mattered the most to the women that I spoke with on their journey. The first was diagnosis, where everything changes. In Kenya and Zambia, diagnosis often came after delays or misdiagnosis, and then required immediate action in the midst of great fear. In the US, diagnosis was routine, but the immediate action and the fear were still present. Diagnosis, in both contexts, asks women and caregivers to act quickly, often before they even have time to understand. Agency and choice came up again and again. In the US, women described having to make treatment decisions very quickly. Mastectomy or lumpectomy, chemo now or later, often without guidance or with clinical knowledge. In Kenya and Zambia, agency showed up in everyday acts that preserved dignity. These experiences told me that agency isn't just about clinical decision making. It's also about maintaining dignity and the ability to still feel like yourself. And being able to maintain that in daily life can build resilience. It also shows us that choice without support does not necessarily feel like agency. The third experience that came through strongly was how women navigate treatment and how much depends on the strength of the health system around them. In Kenya and Zambia, women talked about long travel, broken radiotherapy machines, limited insurance coverage. In the US, the context was different, but women still faced uncoordinated providers and had to rely heavily on self-advocacy to get the treatment that they wanted and that they deserved. Across both settings, the health system didn't always fully hold women, so women and their caregivers had to carry what the system could not. Support makes the journey just a bit easier. In Kenya and Zambia, family and community stepped in, fundraising to cover costs, connecting through personal networks to doctors, siblings rotating caregiving, families leaning on faith. In the US, women leaned on themselves and whoever they already had around them. Caregivers shared quite a bit about the deep emotional strain that they experience, yet they are rarely seen or supported. Support shouldn't depend on context or on luck or on individual strength, and support must include caregivers too. The journey doesn't end when treatment ends. Survivors spoke about reclaiming their bodies, their confidence, their identity. Caregivers spoke about grief and faith and meaning, even long after the loss. And these stories came up similarly across both contexts. Life after cancer needs support too, for survivors and for caregivers. If we want better outcomes for women facing women's cancers, the care has to support the entire woman in her complete life, not only the treatment plans. Listening across Kenya, Zambia, and the US showed me how much we learn when we center lived experience. It helped me see not just what the systems do, but also what they don't do, and who carries that load when they don't. This experience has changed how I show up as a leader, with more courage and more empathy and a deeper sense of responsibility. The stories hold a lot of pain, but they also hold a whole lot of strength and resilience. And I'm deeply grateful to the women who trusted me with their stories. Thank you.